Mike's extra hard beverage. We're going to enter the metal. Hey, we're live on the metal app.
I want a big mouthful of Mike's extra hard beverage.
All right.
It's all foamy.
We're going in hot. Speaking of going in hot, I'm joined by the lovely voice once again of Mr. Tom Kerr.
Hello, everyone. Cheers.
Here's hoping his internet holds out today. I'm also joined by Mike White.
Hello.
Filling in for PJ Bolin, we've got Mr. Michael Hilton.
How's it going?
And Jay.
Hi.
All right, guys, it's been a week. Let's talk about our weeks in Heroclix. I know Jay and Michael had some exciting weekends. So let's start with Tom, sir.
Oh, I have nothing to say. I've been in Baltimore all week. I was there for conference, and I was really hoping I could hook up with some local games and stuff. Unable.
All right, no worries. Mr. Mike White?
I got to play on Thursday, miraculously. I'm back working, as I mentioned before, so time is difficult to get away. Made the Thursday game, but I just grabbed the tackle box of Clixed from the other day, so it was pretty much a repeat of a team I played the other day, which was the KC Shazam full points, KC Green Lantern at 30 points, Booster Gold, Skeets at full 115, and the 100-point there, Elseworlds Dark Knight Batman, future keyword. And it's not a bad team, and it can be fun to play. Shazam sucks because for whatever reason he can't hit. He misses by one. He just misses by one. He just
Saint Walker to the max.
Yeah, he's been Saint Walkering the hell out of me the past couple of times I've played him. So I'm not a fan of him. But whatever, it was still fun. We had a good time. We think we had 4 guys out, so enough to have a tournament, which is always good. I like to play 3 rounds. So it was a fun game, and that was it. I didn't get to go Sunday. Just had too much going on, and I was just really wiped out. And that was it. That was my weekend clicks.
All right. Before we get on to Michael, I myself, local tournament, 400-point modern for Robot Man. Accidentally came up with my 400-point limited team. I just got to find a way to respend 20 points. Oops. My team was Hades. It was the Daredevil from Avengers Defenders War, the Chase Daredevil, and the what's the other guy? The 65-point Avengers Defenders War super rare Black Panther. And the 20-point Groot, because I had 20 points left over and I had a ruler theme team. You know what? A lot of rulers, they're modeled in thrones, guys.
You bet. Go forth. Go forth.
Started my games with 4 figures and averaged about 13 by the end of the games. So I did on average also lose about 6 or 7 hand ninjas. It was pretty insane. I'm probably going to rethink that team with Belphegor and lose the theme team because really the map bonus doesn't matter. Anyway, that's my adventure this weekend. It was quite fun to play, and I'm sure Amber's words were that was the most frustratingly fun thing to play against. So, all right, Michael, how was your weekend Heroclix?
Pretty good. Had a winner map I went to this weekend. It was a relatively small winner map, but it was actually a pretty cool event. It wasn't just modern. It was 300 modern has to be a theme team.
Okay, I heard about this. This was run by Adam Cole, right?
No, this one was ran by Matthew.
Oh, okay. Well, then forget Adam Cole. He's a terrible human being.
I already have.
Who?
And I specifically built 2 separate teams for the event just so that there was options. And I got there and I was like, okay, you guys get to pick. Am I playing Cosmic theme team or am I playing Mystical? And they chose Cosmic because there was a bunch of Mysticals there. So unfortunately, they chose themselves into a Baby Unimind Nick Fury team because that's what my Cosmic team was. With a Enchanted Crowbar, and I threw a Frogglneer in there just to round out points. Round 1, I actually went against a really cool team, though. It was the Metalmen, who I didn't realize at the time have been buffed to hell with the rule changes. Number one, you can TK Alloy now.
All right.
Number two, the leadership changes. Gold is able to take off of Alloy and Mercury.
Yep.
And number three, with the support changes, Doc Magnus has a guaranteed +1 to his healing, minimum 3 healing when you roll for support.
It's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
It actually works really well now that the new rules are out. It unfortunately wasn't able to stand up to a Fury shooting it from across the board because at the end of the day, it is an alloy.
What is?
Exactly. But that was pretty fun. He almost killed him when they all broke out and he like charged at Fury, but he just wasn't able to get it off in time before I just kind of picked it apart.
I've been there.
So that was round one. I won. Round two, I was against a mystical theme team of Pluto from TMT, Jeanette from Harley Quinn, basically to be a tie-up annoying piece because of the whole you only take 1 damage unless it's doubles. Again, would have been relevant if not for Fury just saying, cool, you don't have that, now go away kind of thing. And then the last piece was the shifting focus Doctor Strange. And in theory, it was actually really good because you would move up, and if I hit Pluto to a stop click, he would have the Doctor Strange that when you get hit, you healed, so he'd just never actually be stuck on the stop click and always be healing up. So I just had to use some mind control to separate people around and then start taking shots kind of thing. We ended up only having like 7 players there. So in the interest of time, we went ahead and just did 2-round Swiss top 4 cut. I ended up going against that same Pluto team in top 4. So we ended up I played it and I won that. But the last round was really exciting. I was against Mr. Bob and he ran animals and I got to see a King Shark team in action. It was nasty. I'm not going to lie. It was 2 King Sharks, 2 Throgs, a KC Hawkman, and a Tribbles. Exactly 300 animal theme team. And because of Tribbles, you can always guarantee yourself to make sure you keep that 6 figures on board unless they kill 2 at once.
That's the plan. That's the plan. I've been talking about it. Said it right away.
So he ended up getting first. He moved up, carrying the Throg, standing on 2 heavy objects for hindering. But they were within range of water. We were playing on Wakanda. So that he could sidestep to the water and then run at me kind of thing. So I knew that it was going to hurt either way. I needed to try to at least soften it up a little bit. So I TK'd up Fury, turned off the damage power to try to make sure I'm at least going to hit one of them after perplexing up, I believe, damage and attack. Because they had 20 defense or something like that because the Throgs +2 plus their own +1 and everything. So I softened up 1 King Shark. And of course, next turn, they all charged at me. It did take both of them, though, to end up taking out Fury. And so that managed to leave him a little awkward. So I killed one of them with the Unimind on the retaliation. And he tried to kind of run away. But he was double actioned. I was double actioned. He cleared. I cleared. He could only sidestep so far. Then when he tried to just actually move away, at the end of the day, I'm a Unimind. I can pick running shot or hypersonic or whatever I need, run across, I see through hindering, so Wakanda doesn't really hurt me or anything. As soon as I took the shot on King Shark and he missed shape change, he just forfeited. And so I got the new arcade map that I'm not going to actually show on screen for reasons.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Yeah, congratulations.
Good to hear, man. Good to hear. All right. Jay.
Unmute myself.
Nice, Jay.
There he goes. He unmuted himself. He got there, guys. He got there.
Eventually.
Somebody's got to do it every week.
That's why I just don't ever mute myself. That's why my secret is always being heard.
Except when your internet dies, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing that can shut me up.
Except when you.
All right, Jake, we're done making fun of Tom.
For now.
Are we? That's my favorite thing to do.
We have charts about it.
Thursday was, what was the build? It was a 500 something or other. I don't think it
Uh,
was anything special, just 500 something or other.
no resources. Yeah.
Some weird, I don't know, some pretty standard.
Yeah, standard.
I brought 2 teams, one specifically to play against Glenn because he loves that Secret Society, and then I brought a Defenders team. So round 1 I played the Secret Society, including Felix Faust, with no choosing not to use any lockdowns because it wasn't even necessary. What else do I have? I had Prometheus with Adara just to defend the Wizard, and then the Wizard. I had some other characters. There were other characters on the team, I assure you.
Massively underbuilt.
Totally. And then and Amazo, who was awful because I forgot about everything. And I had the Secret Society ATA, which gives you a 50-50 chance of rolling out of Outwit, but then I forgot about the whole game. And Kirk DePaul, who was fantastic, especially because I actually did get the first Secret Society trade recently, and he's pretty cool in it. And Glenn was playing Lex Luthor and Lex Luthor. He had the God of Apocalypse. He had the Slosh Uncommon, and he had the Slosh Fast Forces, which he had modded into a Walter White, which is pretty cool. He couldn't roll to save his life, and that was unfortunate. And I ended up winning that one. Then I played against Mike with my Defenders, which included that kind of obscure character. He's green. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. That Hulk-ish guy.
No idea.
Nathan, no. That guy. The shifting focus Doctor Strange. The Chase Valkyrie at 30 points because I still hadn't played her yet, despite having her. I had Iceman. Uncanny X-Men Beast with Secret Avengers, and I filled it in with the Serpent Moon Knight because Serpent Moon Knight is a defender. So Mike and I ended up going 210 to 205.
Yeah, it was a 5-point.
It was very close.
Nice.
Secret Avengers basically saved me because he could not cross the map with Batman and just outwit me and make me sad.
Yeah, the worst part was I kept trying to figure out a way to get into position to then outwit Beast, only to then remember Secret Avengers after all of that. Mm-hmm. So, and I never had enough actions to get the attack on Beast in the same turn and maneuver to be able to outwit it. So, though the funny part is you weren't really getting to use his outwit on lots of my guys, but it was that whole being afraid of it and positioning that was really difficult in our game. Like you had me a little afraid for the game, so that was helpful for you too. But 5 points. Oh.
Yeah. Then I played against Devin, who had random mystical mishmash because he wanted to play. He really wanted to play Crisis Trigon. With a bunch of mystical support. He loves
that's Devin for you.
He loves.
He's not at all a DC guy.
He likes the magical poofy poof.
Yeah, he likes to just sort of open the closet. Whatever falls on him, he just wants to be that for a while.
Yeah, he had Trigon, the New Forge, Clarion, Zatara, something else I think I'm forgetting, but. And then I ended up winning that game because he got he TK'd up his Trigon, made one big attack, and killed Strange, and I was like, okay. And then he had half of his team without willpower. Beast outwitted all of his 5 probs, so he couldn't re-roll my attacks, and then I won, involving Hulk finishing off Trigon, which was pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, he did a good smashing. And then I missed the Sunday tournament because I was busy driving back home from Michigan, where I was at their winner map, which ended up having, I think, 13 players. But the good thing about the winner map was that they somehow had maps first and second. So had they not had for both, I would have second guessed going all the way there. But I figured I can try for second. That's within my acceptable attempts. So I brought it was 400. Was it Rock Age, the one that's only carded characters? And it's a good thing that Pat has that ban list for his Golden Age events because Justin is literally the worst. because when you play him and you give an extra move and attack to Nimrod, it's
You're welcome. You're welcome, by
yes.
the way.
So the problem is the points that they gave me were digital, so I don't even know how to redeem them, but I have points.
Yeah.
Are you okay, Jason? It
No.
was the grossest. It was
So it was sorry. This is 400 limited. You said, right?
400 limited. Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah. And I also, because it was mandatory named theme, it was I got to use the Sentinel ATA, which is amazing because it is pick a keyword and you get +1 attack against those characters. So it was everything. It was perfect, and the fact that I didn't win this event is a damn shame.
Did
What?
he build a Nimrod team with Justin Seifert, which in itself is countering any format? He countered the format further by giving himself extra stats against theme teams, which every team was required to be.
Yep, minimum 13 attack to start. It was
That's beautiful.
It's
You're
fantastic.
done.
I still managed to miss attacks because I essentially had no probability control. But woe was me when I was making 3 attacks a turn.
I was gonna say, hold on, I got a violin for you somewhere. It's right
Yeah.
here.
So the basic game plan ended up being.
Well, I think we get it, but okay. Go ahead.
Hold on. Let's complexity to this, man. It's game plan was
It's a subtle,
make things
subtle nuanced
Did
plan
Nimrod make
with
things
many
bad?
levels to it.
mission accomplished.
Yeah. So I sit down and the team plays itself, and then I claim victory for some reason.
I sit down across from my opponent. If they haven't died from a heart attack yet, I start the game of Heroclix.
I take a drink from their tears and
Well, yeah, I guess just to clarify, if nobody has Nimrod style on hand, so he starts.
He's got multi-attack. That's enough.
He has multi-attack and a hypersonic, so I have 30 free squares of movement, and I get to make 3 attacks in a turn. And I think Jason's literally gonna die.
I'm trying to find my internet cable so I can reach through and throttle you.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
Hey, Jason, I lent him the Nimrod.
Oh, so you're part of the problem.
Yeah, totally.
Such pride. Yeah.
I'm the evil provider.
Yeah, I like to enable.
yeah. So
Wait, so basically, 50% of Jay's team was yours, Mike. And
that's more than 50.
It was all his, but it was all his machinations.
yeah, I just had to borrow it. He had nothing to do with the
That's right. It was all his machinations.
because it was what, just those 2 pieces, right?
and the ATA, and I was 2
Okay.
points under, and nobody's crying for me, unfortunately. But
Yeah. So what was the game plan then? You know?
So the team would play itself for me.
Yeah, exactly. I pressed autoplay and went to the washroom.
I grabbed a beer. My opponent was still there. I played.
It's like an airplane. You've got the inflatable like autopilot.
Okay, let's actually let Jay go through the
Okay,
trivia. I think
so-
we're not tormenting him for his fun foul.
Essentially, well, this was labeled a ROC event. So.
Exactly. That's why I did what I did. I was like,
Yeah. So, but it
That's
ended up
cool.
being in all these games, I would do all the moves, pick off something, put them on tilt, proceed with the cleanup.
If they weren't on tilt from seeing their opposing team.
Round 1 was against Chad Carson, who would actually basically organize the event. He was playing. This was actually Suicide Squad. He had Fiddler, so he just automatically won the day. 50-point King Shark, Thug, Fast Forces Mirror Master to carry everybody, Nightshade, the Amanda Waller from Flash, who gives out the Suicide Squad keyword to DC villains, and the new Scarecrow with the free smoke cloud. So very mobile, good stuff. He won map roll because I was obviously not going to win map roll all day with mandatory theme, and I had the smallest team there with 2 characters at the bare minimum. So he picked the water treatment plant. What basically happened? I moved up and killed Nightshade, and then he came in for a mind control to try and kill Justin. After 3 probs, he somehow missed with 12 on my 16. I didn't even go to super senses. It's just he could not hit. And then it was just a matter of letting Nimrod do things while I spectated my own game. It was ended up being, because we had 13 people, it was 3 rounds, cut to top 4, despite ROC rules, because cutting to top 2 is a little bit silly. Round 2 was against Jeremy Walters, who had a very scary team to sit down across, because he started off with Hela, who's pretty solid in her own right. And he had cloned Loki, so the Lokis die, and you get warrior souls, and then they reproduce asexually, and lots of fun there. He had the Fast Forces Loki, who has the regenerate whatever scheme token. Jane Foster, Asgardian Troll, and a couple of filler objects. I think it was, I don't know, somebody, the Fast Forces Loki got the Hulkbuster part that gives knockback. Hela got something, I don't know, stuff. He of course won map and put us on the Jotunheim Lake. I killed Jane and then retreated. And then I killed the troll and retreated. And it got to the point where he was like, I cannot catch you because I can cross the map in 1 turn. With 30 squares of movement, along with a couple attacks along the way. It was shameful. So ended up being, we basically sat there for a while because I had no incentive to move because I had KO'd more points and he needed to KO my whole team to catch up. So I had no reason to whatever. So I ended up killing, and I didn't want to kill anything because that would make warrior souls. So he would. I should also mention that I had a couple objects on the force. I had the ethereal vine, which ended up being very important later. The shield disruptor, which only hurt me, not anybody else, and the kinetic accelerator, which didn't end up mattering. So he actually ended up using the vine to heal Hela from top. At one point, I missed. I had a 13 on the Loki's 17 to kill it, and I managed to miss it with a pulse wave to ignore the illusion token. But basically, the game ended. I didn't give up any points. I scored 165 because I was just too afraid to kill stuff because the warrior souls are a thing. Round 3 was against Tim O'Brien, who was playing Lex Joker at 200, which was amazing. 2 25-point Harleys, Black Mask, and the Super Rare Riddler. This ended up, he put us on the Bank Heist. I killed a Harley and retreated. He counted squares 1,000,000 times and tried every which way to do stuff. And it ended up being, at the end, I won. And he managed to kill Justin because at that point, I technically mispositioned him to let him get killed, but all he had left was Lex Joker, and there was no way I was losing at that point. So that was the first time anything died. And then the next round was against an awesome team of awesomeness because it had 2 Hulks. It had Scarlet Witch at 50. It had Avengers Assemble Hulk that turns into Bruce Banner. Because that when I think Hulk, I want to talk about how I want to play Bruce Banner. And Adam is messaging me to mention that I stated his lovely King of the North Castle, and it's very much appreciated. So yeah, he had those 2 Hulks. He had the free move Captain America from the Avengers Fast Forces, and an 8 Batman. And he put us on the dungeon, which was actually not the easiest thing to play against because he had really good swing too. And moving around that map is a pain, and it's the worst map ever. So I went for, what did I kill first? It was basically a lot of back and forth, like positioning. I killed the 8 Batman, and then he managed to set up, picking up my shield disruptor, which shuts off all reducers, and put it next to me, smacked me with the Hulk. I was very sad about that, but then I was able to retreat and use the Vine to heal after that because, yeah, the Vine, I double healed with the Vine, and then I landed on Nimrod's defense power, where if he's double token, he rolls free regen. And Jason's face is the best right now.
Shaking his head in shame.
Yeah, he ended up doing something interesting where he turned into Bruce Banner, which kind of got rid of his 175-point Hulk's offenses. So the game ended up being he had the Hulk left, and I had Nimrod at full, and it was just a matter of when I set up the double pulse waves to just destroy, and then that's what happened. That was my hardest match of the day though, for sure. Just a lot of back and forth because he had, full movement Hulk, Quake, awesome stats, plus Captain America, just a lot of good stuff going around. And Nimrod started with Impervious, so I couldn't punch Scarlet Witch as soon as I wanted to. And then we got to the final, which was me versus Tim. And after using the ATA all day, I think I lost because I can't remember if I forgot about it or I didn't realize what stats I had. But it basically came down to I was making an attack with my Nimrod at first click. So he starts with a 12, should have had a 13. On Riddler's 16, I think I forgot about the ATA, and then I rolled a 3. So I should have actually hit. But I think I didn't, and despite the fact that the lovely Adam Cole was active judging, either he missed it or just everything went by so fast. Like, because we were talking about it after, it was like, wait, I had a 13 on your 16. I didn't crit miss. How did I miss? So, but he was unable to use the Riddler to set up the clue to shut off my reducer, and unfortunately, that ended up in my loss. But it was okay, because I didn't care as long as I got the top 2. And it was a really cool team. And losing to Lex Joker was pretty cool, because that's an amazing piece. Yeah, it was a good time. And I got the map. And I got another version of the rules object, which is like half the size of the original from the Rock Cup.
Yours were like that too.
Yeah, they were. It's literally half the size. I don't know what it was. What? But
and did you have any of the TARDISes that are like super tiny now?
I didn't actually see the TARDIS up close, but not the TARDIS, the police unlicensed non-British box or whatever that's red and not blue.
Yes, there's one of those.
Yeah. But basically, Pat, your band list is really good. Justin is terrible. Continue with your band list and maybe make it, more widespread so this crap doesn't happen.
What a journey.
All right.
This is probably my last episode of the show as I come off Jason's face.
I might have to call in a real boy soon.
Okay, so is that travesty over?
That's done.
It's
done being described. Sorry, my camera's over here, and I'm looking over here because I'm looking at my face in the camera. And
I had to go have a shower.
Yeah, you should probably go burn that Nimrod while you're at it.
No.
All right, guys. The moment we've all been waiting for. Tom has returned. There's a new set around the corner. Tom, what'd you bring for me this week?
Well, I brought some charts, and we'll see whether you can hear me long enough for me to share them with you.
Awesome. All right. Now, on the plus side, I can already hear the applause from the south of the border there. And here is Tom's first chart, the return.
Indeed. A brief word for those who are new to the show or those who's been a while. The way that I like to, when new sets come out, I like to gather as much information as I can about the pieces that are out there and just put together some very basic charts to kind of show the trends of what to expect powers-wise, keywords, values, point values, etc. For the set. So they'll just sort of show the trends that are there and the things that they're adding to the meta as a whole. I do include the fast forces in this. It's not purely for sealed purposes. It's mostly just to see what the new set's giving us. When a character would have multiple different starting lines, I count it as distinct characters, because if we're talking about things it's adding to the game, if you've got a 75-point character that could also be played as 50 points, that's essentially 2 characters. I mean, yeah, most of the dial's the same, but the fact remains it's 2 different options that may have 2 different deployment possibilities. So sometimes if you see some of the numbers being really high, it's because some characters are being counted more than once. In the case of the ex-student and ex-trainee, they're actually being counted 8 times because you've got 4 different starting lines at 2 different values each. So that'll skew your numbers. But anyway, enough on that. Let's talk a little bit about where we start here. Now, the thing about the keywords that you may not be able to see based on the resolution is that there's a legend along the bottom. Now, under the named keywords, that legend goes up to 80. In the generic keywords, that legend goes up to 4. So if there was any doubt that we are truly in the age of the named keyword, this is it. Generic keywords, there are so few. This isn't just the top 12 generic keywords. This is all the generic keywords. There are
all 12.
yeah, all yeah. Like there are 4 scientists, 3 mystical, 2 each of robot, police, detective, cosmic celebrity, and 1 each of spy, monster, future, brute, and animal. So if you like your generic keyword teams, you're not going to get a lot from this set, I'm afraid.
Damn
What
it.
you are going to get a lot of is X-Men. Oh goodness, are you going to get a lot of X-Men? It's staggering, really. There's nearly 80 unique X-Men dials here. A lot.
Right. Oh,
No, all good.
yeah. Anybody got an observation on this before we move on to the next thing, or are we all kind of cool and excited to see a lot of named and losing out in the generic side? Because I know I'm sad to lose generic guys.
I'm less sad, but that's obvious because I'm always been much more of a named keyword builder. So this, of course, makes me very excited.
The other thing that I should note, if this isn't in a chart, but I just did it quickly while we were sitting preparing for the show today. If I look only at unique figures, so not in this case unique starting lines, but just straight up unique pieces, there are 78 of them when you include the Fast Forces and the entire set, and 52 of 78 have the X-Men keyword. That is exactly 2/3. So if you can't build theme in sealed with this set, you'll never be able to.
I like that theme that like it actually uses the title thing as the majority.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Already.
like it should.
Yeah.
Jay, anything you wanted to add on there?
Yeah, it's a lot of characters in this set are seeming to have one named keyword, and that's it. Like the X Factor ones, they have X Factor and they don't even get X-Men, so it's very tight as far as
Generation X too.
But I think that's good because they're also providing a lot of synergy with these keywords, right? Like we're seeing tons of traits on these characters that are related to their keywords and interacting with other figures. So I like the fact that it's not going to be as widespread exploited. You know what I mean? Like if they start making traits that benefit off of these combinations, but they're generic keywords or there's something that you can manipulate with other people, not such a fan of that as opposed to this, which is like saying, okay, great. You know, you want to play the theme thing. We're going to give you lots of benefits to it, but we're going to, pigeonhole it. We're going to tighten up your build. I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Not a lot of interesting stuff on the next slide. I mean, it's what you might expect. This is the team abilities for this set, and you either don't have one or you're an X-Man for the most part. And that's okay. In fact, although X-Men are incredibly pervasive as far as the keywords are concerned, not quite as pervasive as far as the team ability. So as a little quick note for if you're playing sealed, I wouldn't assume just because you're playing an X-Men team that you're going to have all that healing potential. Make sure that you're actually looking for the team ability because it doesn't show up nearly as often as the keyword does, but it still does show up, on more than half, or rather more than a third of the play options for the set. Still, none takes the day, and everything else is in very short supply.
I got really excited about Defenders, but then I realized it was because Angel has 2 starting lines, and then I got really sad.
There's a second defender? No. There's one defender with 2 starting lines. Jay.
Sorry, sir.
Oh man.
All right.
All right, let's move on. There's not a lot to say on that point, and we can summarize again later. Next up, we're going to look at point values. Now, this is, I have to apologize, I would normally compare against the modern age, but I'm so behind on my charting that I really didn't have a chance to go over the whole modern age and see what the overall averages are. So this is just our overall averages for this set where the point values lie. And perhaps unsurprisingly, the 41 to 50 slot, specifically 50, is dominant. With more than twice as many as even the next highest number of starting line options. And remember that the 11 to 20 slot is being filled up with a lot of 15-point ex-trainee options and ex-student options, and similarly the 21 to 30 with a lot of 25-point ones. So if you account down for that, this is a very 50-point, 45 or 50-point heavy set. And almost everything, like very close to everything, at or below 100. In fact, almost everything at or below 75. So let's prepare for another sealed experience with lots of figures on the board, and don't expect a whole lot of very few.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that's trending in the sets. It causes a little concern for me. I do enjoy sealed, and I like the direction they've been going with sealed, but this set skews a little lower, a little on the lower side than most. I do miss the days where 75 was a little bit more dominant.
Yeah, that feels to me a little more like X-Men. I mean, I always thought, like, Joker's Wild felt like it should have been low like that, whereas this seems like a low X-Men set. I guess it is a lot of X students, but
I do think, though, it is a little bit exciting for the potential of the sealed environment, because it actually then means, like you said, there's going to be more figures on the map, which actually makes the competition tighter, right? Because then the point swing is so much closer. One figure at 45 to 50 points, that means the game's going to be closer. It's going to come right down to the wire a lot more. That means that the field opens up more. I like when that happens. I want people to feel like everybody has a chance when they come to a sealed event. So a set like this excites me for that.
Make your strategy again.
Until somebody pulls Kid of Gladiator is going to wreck everything.
Yeah, okay.
Iceman.
maybe Iceman. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
then again, like that Iceman
not-
can very much be dogpiled. We've got a lot of powerful things at the lower end. Just because they're cheap doesn't necessarily mean they're bad in this set. So yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on then.
We know that.
Bending Iceman is cheap if you play him at the 60 point.
True.
Combat values.
Yep, there's a lot to look at here, but none of it should surprise people too much. For those who can't see the detail, the blue bars are first click, and the orange bars are full dial, and this is based on sort of percentage breakdown across the set. So if we look at the movement, we've got a big spike at 8. We've moved our way down from, about a year and a half to 2 years ago, we were seeing spikes around 9 on the top dial and then moving down. Now we're seeing the spike at 8. So for all your charge running shot, carry the 4 squares, unless they've got some kind of sidestep or whatever to help them out, or perplex, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't see a lot of diminishment over the course of the full dial as compared to the first click. The slight tendency towards 8 over 7, whereas in the full dial it's a slight tendency towards 7 over 8. But really, 7 and 8 are very similar numbers for Heroclix purposes, so that's more or less how far you're looking to go. And that makes an interesting, I'm going to jump not ahead in the slide, but if you look down at range, you'll sort of see where this is going. The ranges, for those who have them, are tending to live somewhere around 5 or 6. So by and large, your range guys will outrange the movement on your charge characters in a lot of instances. That's obviously a very broad average, but the tendency of range is to be slightly ahead of 1/2 movement. So there's one. It's still half the set has no range at all. So this will be more of a close combat heavy set than you might think from an X-Men theme. But at least the range guys have a bit of a chance. Over on the attack values, average. 9 starts to take over the course of the dial. There's some more 11s up front, but very much living around 10, and the defenses are living around 17. So it's the good old-fashioned looking for a 7. We've seen this lots of times. Sometimes it's 11, 18. Sometimes it's higher, lower, but we're pretty much living on the 10, 17 world. And as for damage, it's a lot of 2. Starting damage is very close between 2 and 3 as the front runners, 2 slightly out stripping it. And as you go along, 2 starts to take more of a dominant role over the course of the whole dial. So invulnerability, impervious, these things can go an awful long way in a set like this if you don't have outwit or penetrating damage. There are lots of sources of penetrating damage. We'll see that later. But in the meantime, invulnerability will be worth its weight in gold if you can get it. So grab it while you can. Yeah. And clicks of life-wise, mostly 5, 6s, and if it's not 5 or 6, it's usually less. So you can pretty much reliably look across the board and assume that 6 damage is going to KO your opponent pretty much no matter who they are or what their value is. Exceptions.
This 10-17 trend is starting to remind me of the Age of Ultron. I think that's just life as we live it now in Heroclix. Beats the 9 versus 17 days. Don't get me wrong.
Which was Armor Wars.
Right.
Armor Wars was the 9-17, and that was painful, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also that was a lot of reduction in Armor Wars against not the damage wasn't there yet. So Those games were slogs.
Yeah. Oh God, were they ever?
Such a nightmare. Memories. Anything you guys wanted to add on there, Michael and Jay?
Range seems pretty low considering you're dealing with a lot of like super powered characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say this though. I mean, we'll know because I know we're going to get to a chart with some power layouts, but I don't think there was a lot of stealth in this set, was there?
Not a ton, no.
No. So as Tom pointed out, that if you pull a ranged character in the set, especially a character with a 6 range or better, you should probably play him in sealed. Because as he's pointed out, those that are close combat characters, if they've got charge, it's most likely 4 movement on their charge. So if you've got a range of 6 or more, you're at a very big advantage in the game, right? I mean, you're picking off people as they come towards you. We know there's not a lot of stealth in the set, so it seems like there's a trend to say, look out for range if you're playing sealed.
I almost always do that in sealed anyway, just because of the inherent advantage that range gives you. But especially with as heavy as it is here.
I don't so much if I'm playing a Batman theme set.
That's fair.
Because I assume that it's going to be stealth
heavy, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like this is more anecdotal than statistical, but the characters who tend to have the higher ranges tend to also pack some punch. Like they're your Cyclopses and your Professor X's for mind control and that sort of thing. Like the low range characters are often characters who have range, somewhat incidentally. So those range characters will be worth their weight in a set like this, I think.
Yeah. Jay, anything you want to add before we move to the next charts?
Not really.
Cool. All right.
On we go. All right, so let's talk about some movement powers. The chart on the left is the proportion of powers across the starting click, and the chart on the right is the proportion across the whole dial. This includes powers that are granted by traits and things. What might be not immediately clear is that whenever there's a conditional power, sort of you can use a power but only in these circumstances, I pretty much make a call on it. I think if it's a circumstance that's reasonably within your control and is likely to come up, then I'll tend to lean in that direction. But if it's a really limited form of a power, I won't. One controversial one might be all the headmaster traits. They'll give you perplex under circumstances. I tend not to credit those as being sources of perplex because they are A, only friendly characters, B, only other characters, and C, only X-Men. In a sealed setting, you can probably pull that off. But as far as its contribution to the meta as a whole, this set is not giving us much in the way of perplex. We'll get to see that, for example, but that's the reason I didn't count those as having perplex. So you could probably quibble on a few of these little points, but you can see the trend here, and it's not a trend that's any different than every single set ever since Sidestep was released. Sidestep's the best. It may not be the best, but it's certainly the most prominent. What is usually not prominent at all is mind control. But look at like 10% of the pieces in this set have mind control, which is crazy. Like that pretty much means that the odds are good that you'll have a mind controller in any sealed game you play. Or rather any sealed packs you pull, you'll have at least that as an option, which is way higher than we're used to seeing. It's not surprising for a bunch of psychics, as the X-Men tend to be, but I don't think I've ever seen a mind control number that high. So that's really cool. Running shot and charge are somewhat in balance. Slight favor towards charge, but not really meaningful one. As Mike pointed out, not a lot of stealth, very little flurry. More force blast than we're used to, not too much hypersonic, and everything else in small measure. And I also added one that I've never had before, which is pick a power. It's become so common that I just added it. If you could choose a movement power, then I ticked it for pick a power. If you could choose any power, I ticked it for all 4. And so you'll see those as we go. I've also added a thing for stop clicks later, which you'll see, which I think is... Anyway, that's the movement powers for you. What do you guys think of that?
Sorry, Jay. No, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, when we looked at charts way earlier in this whole Tom's doing charts thing, that pink pie used to be a lot smaller, and that none pie was a lot bigger, and it's skewed. Like it, I almost feel like Sidestep is becoming the replacement for no movement power in a lot of cases.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really, I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. mocked that power when I first saw it. I really didn't think.
I said it was one of the most broken powers ever created when it first came out.
I didn't see it being that crazy, and I didn't see it that prevalent, and I'm so wrong. It's the thing I've been the most wrong about in Heroclix ever.
That's the thing. Like, if sidestep were just a power that we're giving out with the same frequency as everything else, I don't know that it would be the game changer that it is. But it's because it's so common.
Yeah. Now, my comment is really, or my thought, or whatever you want to call it, in regards to this mind control thing. Now, let me put to you this way: do you think that we would have seen this much mind control pre-rule changes? Like,
I'm betting not.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the only reason we are seeing a number this high of mind control, regardless of the fact that it is an X-Men set and there are a lot of psychics, is because mind control is so much less powerful, right?
And less confusing. Like, it's less rules lawyery and
Absolutely,
yeah. You know, like if you look at, I think it's way less powerful. Like, I mean, if you look at Professor X, like he's just so much less effective because he's just really moving and attacking. It's the not being able to access those powers. You know what I mean?
Just
I agree.
Shutting some things down in the background that are putting notification windows up that are just.
What were you going to say, Michael?
I agree that it's less powerful, but it is definitely way more versatile now because
yes,
it gets you out of a lot of scary situations and lets you do a little bit of damage at the same time.
Yes, I would agree that it has more permutations to it. It's definitely more versatile. It's just less threatening, overall powerful. Like, you can't just grab someone's beast character and unleash all the evil that he was going to do on you on them. You know what I mean? Like, here, let me running shot pulse wave you with your own guy. You can't do that kind of stuff anymore, which was always a really scary thing about mind control, right? So I think because that is not accessible to you anymore is the only reason we're seeing that piece of pie as large as it is right now.
This chart is very interesting to me because we just established that the range values for the most part are very low, and yet charge and running shot are almost the same percentage in the starting clicks.
True. But we also established that just under half the set has no range at all. So it suggests that they're giving out running shot to quite a few of the characters that do have it.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like if you have range, you are getting running shot.
In a lot of cases.
Kind of, yeah.
At least on the first click. You got to remember, too, is it drops drastically. Like
when you're looking at the dial as a whole. Yeah.
When you look at the dial as a whole, yeah.
Well, yeah, you lose, what, 5%?
Right, but that's what you need it to begin with. You need it less later, so that's fine.
Yep.
If you're already at your last click, something's already gone wrong.
True, although I kind of love like landing on move and attack with sort of a stick and move character. It's a great little surprise when people don't see it coming. So
it is interesting about the particular mind control in the set. How probably one of the best mind controllers in the set is that Professor X Prime, who, in addition to having triple targets, says, I mind control 3 characters and you all get the best stats. So you're actually getting a lot more use of that mind control. Like, you're mind controlling a little guy and you're giving it the stats of a higher point character. So the mind control is actually more threatening than it looks.
Yeah.
I'm just sorry that Flurry has taken such a hit. I mean, we have little enough of it as it is, and Clixed out there. I wish there was more Flurry.
This I'm in agreement on that one for sure. All right, let's move on next.
Yes, let's talk about some attack powers. Well, attack power is very consistent between where you start and the dial and the whole thing, and a lot of it's nothing. More than a third of the attack slots have nothing, and by the biggest pie, really again, are those psi powers: penetrating psychic blast and telekinesis. So. Yeah, in a world where there's not a lot of anything, also there's a fair chunk of precision strike and everything else is in short supply. This is at least going to help make up for your low damage a little bit. Some of those nearly 10% of the clicks having blades, claws, fangs, that'll help. That precision strike, that'll help. And TK is great for getting those people around the board. And as pointed out, you can TK yourself. So, got things like that Chase Jean Grey. I think you guys talked about it last week when I wasn't here, but that was the first thing I was thinking when I was seeing that is, move yourself around the board.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of nothing.
Who has starting click steal energy? There's no vampires in this set.
I can't remember.
That's really weird.
I guess.
Somebody has it traded.
Maybe it is because it's... Oh, Magic has it traded.
Yeah, it's traded.
Get your life together, Jay. You're supposed to be the encyclopedia here.
I mean,
Hey,
to be fair,
that's it. I mean, I
this
think
set hasn't been out long enough for me to...
first it's the
relate it.
Nimrod thing. Now it's that. Jay,
Why do we have him here?
I know. What's going on?
I'll say this, even at 5%, that's still more pulse wave than we've been seeing recently. So that's
Well,
nice.
I mean, isn't 5% of 60 figures like half of a figure?
Well, yeah, it just means that they have it at some point. It's nice to see
Yeah.
that.
It's good to see it come back. You're right. I'll agree.
Well, Iceman, right? Iceman has it.
Yeah.
He
And
represents the 3%.
there's a Magneto who has it.
Well, no, that Magneto gets it second click, not top dial.
Oh yeah, later on.
But remember, the 5% is coming on the full dial, 3% on the starting click, right?
That's what I'm saying. 5%.
Yeah. Huh.
Shut up, Jay.
There's been a couple sets though recently where the precision strike was skewing higher, and it looks like they've gone away from just kind of handing it out as much as they used to.
Yeah, it's nice to see Psychic Blast take the crown back in that respect.
Yeah.
Right, but what are you psychic blasting in this set?
Right? Because
They're
there's
Psychic
not.
Blasting a lot of toughness.
Yeah, right. It's kind of
You
fun.
gotta cut through that toughness, and then
Hey, when you've got a 2 damage value, that's a huge difference. That's twice
I
as
was
much
going to
damage.
say, in
That's
sealed,
true.
you'll notice.
Toughness is basically invincible like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Michael's the best
That's
point of the
what-
day.
All right. So is it really 8% of the set made up of somebody named Wolverine?
That's true. It's not so much that there's a lot of characters with blades; it's there's a few characters with a lot of blades. But
Yeah.
again, it helps with those low values. So.
All right. Next up, what we were just talking about, defense powers.
Yeah, and this one's always the hardest one because I count in what am I trying to say? Indomitable characters for this. So the willpower pie is always a bit high, but then again, they don't give out Indomitable like candy anymore. So a lot of this willpower is on the dial, and a lot of toughness, and a fair amount of super senses. So just like we were talking about the last slide, we've got a chunk of precision strike and a chunk of psychic blast, and here we see a chunk of damage reduction and a chunk of attack evasion. Deflections.
No mastermind.
No, like starting Mastermind is like 0, and then Mastermind at any point is very, very low.
I hate mid-dial mastermind so much.
Impervious, invincible, and invulnerable are almost like joke-worthy low.
Yeah, incredibly low. Remember like Superman and stuff?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
Yeah, they've fallen a long way.
I remember.
Yeah, but you're right, Jay. Mid-dial mastermind is lame. You jump past it like almost all the time.
I can't remember who that is. I'm sure I should.
Very little defend. I mean, in a set where the defenses are fairly uninspired, there isn't a lot of ways to improve upon it. A bit more ESD than combat reflexes, which seems to balance a little bit to the fact that we were talking about range slightly outslipping close combat earlier.
Senses surprises me, like to have 13% of the set. I mean, when I think of super senses, when it comes to this, I think of like I guess Wolverine, but I don't think of a lot of super sense X-Men. Like
I think who has it? Like Emma Prime.
Yeah, I guess psychics kind of predict what you're doing, I think, is what they're getting in some of these cases.
Yeah. We did have a Martian Manhunter at 300 points with it, so if you can read minds, you get super senses.
I can feel what you're about to do. I can read your thoughts.
It's weak. As defense goes, it's not a very defensively potent set.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean,
who's the traded regen figure? Some Wolverine or something?
Who's the Wolverine?
yeah, the old man Logan.
Oh
There he
yeah,
is, yep.
crappy regeneration.
That's the guy.
if you look at it like I do, as soon as this set was announced, all along I've been like, okay, this is an ID card set. Let's see what ID cards matter. to be honest, where powers end at in a meta standpoint, if you're looking at it just as that, doesn't really matter. You care about what do I have top dial.
True. Although obviously you don't want to be bringing out somebody who's going to die.
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, I agree. More important what they're doing than what's being done to them in a way.
Mm-hmm.
That's very little regeneration. Unless there's a lot of support, if you're taking damage, that's it. But except for the X-Men team ability.
I was gonna say, like, there's enough X-Men team ability to kind of get around that.
And the new one, right? The wasn't there another trait that was healing?
There's new mutants, although it's kind of weak.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine for a clearing turn.
Yeah.
But
all right.
All right, let's round it out with the last slide of the day, which is our damage powers.
Damage powers is
yeah, exactly. Just assume you don't have any. And also tons of leadership, which is great. I don't think any of us are sad to see that in the set where the average value is as low as it is. Lots of traded leadership and some fair amount of leadership on the dial. Beyond that, though, not a lot of anything. Again, those perplexed numbers, you could probably think of them as being a bit higher from a sealed perspective if you're really looking at it through the lens of pulling one or two headmasters. So, you know, to take that with a grain of salt because I didn't really count them for this. But not a lot of anything. Very little probability control. In an X-Men set where there's often a lot, really very little. Very little of either combat expert either. So those low damage values, if you're not dealing penetrating damage or precision striking, then you're not getting a lot from the combat expert powers either. It's just not a damage power set really at all.
And half of the empower enhancement is one figure, which is the Emma Prime. So
right.
Huh.
I wonder if the lack of prob is because there will be theoretically within the set so much theme prob.
No doubt for a sealed setting, but it's kind of sad that as far as a contribution to the overall meta, we're not really seeing much in the way of I need this power, I'll pull from something in this set. I feel like this set's meant to play with itself a little more.
No, we got our dedicated prob domino in the other X-Men set.
And that's true. It's not like recycling. So.
Well, what I find also fascinating about the sealed environment is the combination of factors of the low points, right, the 50-point area, and this much leadership. Because not only are you getting the extra action for more figures on your team, but the odds of clearing tokens because you're sharing a keyword with these people. Like there could be some really interesting matches going on of like 5 to 6 figure teams versus each other, taking lots of actions, you know, clearing tokens and doing a lot of things. And
throw in the X-Men team ability with that as well.
Yeah.
Already
that sounds fun to me. You know, I want to do a lot of stuff in a game. I want my opponent to do a lot of stuff in a game instead of like 2 or 3 actions in a turn and drawing it out. Like, let's have some fun and slug it out. Like, I don't know. That all seems exciting to me in a sealed set.
Is this guaranteed pretty much to be our March WKO set at this point?
Yeah, I mean, when is event?
Mid-February.
Yeah, it comes mid-Feb.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like just after 2 days after Valentine's Day or whatever, Feb 16th, I mean.
No, it does come out on Valentine's Day.
Oh,
that's
on
Wednesday.
Oh, well,
yeah, Valentine's Day is a Wednesday.
There's also something that should be noted. In a set without a lot of outwit, this is also a set without a lot of strong defenses. So if you're building with outwit in mind, you're building it probably with the intention of adding protection to your own team as opposed to getting your own team greater opportunity to get through defenses. Like that one outwit's going to mean a lot more on somebody's hypersonic speed or their psychic blast perhaps than it is on your or on their TK or something than it is on their defense dial. A lot of cases.
Then again, though, with the average 10 attack and 17 defense, you want to get rid of that energy shield.
True. Oh yeah, you're right. Or leadership, as we've already pointed out. Like, again, in a set where so much of it is going to be leadership-based, by all means, try to get rid of that leadership if you can.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be very important, leadership, because you're going to have a swarm, so you need that action.
Yeah, man, don't underestimate it anymore. Leadership has got a lot of benefit to it now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I'm finding one of the most advantageous things is the extra action off the top. You just get that now. It's no longer a part of the dice roll, which is so nice. And I've been getting a lot of bonuses out of it, especially with the number of characters that seem to create characters that also seem to have leadership. So,
absolutely, man.
And if you do manage to get some of those headmasters and stuff, and you want to hand around a perplex, this is a set where you maybe don't immediately look to the attacks and damage. Like, look to your movement. That extra little bit of swing could make a big difference in a set like this.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tom, as always, thank you very much for doing all the hard work it takes to get these together.
Happy to.
Do appreciate it. And the fans do appreciate it. This is one of those most sought after things that we create is the Tom's charts. So I'm glad we were able to get one of those in for X-Men, which is always a very popular set, to say the least. All right. Mm-hmm. So the next thing we wanted to cover before we move into the fan questions is just a quick chat on the limited format, as the ROC is starting to get into swing. And because it runs in seasons right now, it is the limited season. And, limited is a format that disallows resources, does allow equipment, doesn't allow special terrain. Apparently, that's a new thing to it. You can't use your ID cards. So really, it's special objects and characters is what you get to use. And you also can't use anything bigger than a peanut base, which is a 2 square base. You can't use 4 square bases or anything like that. So you're very limited in what particular figures you can use in ROC tournaments this part of the year. And it's just, the thoughts. What are you guys looking at building with? What have you been considering? Some stores run 300, some run 400 for this format. So there are slight differences in the format, though very, very, very few. So Tom, you've talked a lot. I'm going to let Mike start.
Yeah, agreed.
Mike, what are you looking at going forward into the limited format as it gets into swing?
That's a tough question. Man, I don't have really a good, easy answer to that because I mean, you're looking at everything. I mean, there's so many things going on right now. When it comes to the limited format, I'm personally looking at, obviously I love theme because I want to get myself options of theme prob, and it's available there in the format. But I'm looking at ways of I don't know, boosting my guys and boosting stats without the boring traditional ways like possessors and things like that. I'm looking for guys who synergistically work together, increase the stats to themselves, and can get more actions for what I have on the table. Do you know what I mean? Like people who can carry somebody up and then they're able to do things after they've been brought forward. Like it's almost like doubling up what your apparent action pool is. You've got 3 in a 300-point event, but somehow you're managing to do 6 things in this turn. So you can't generate bystanders as well, right? That's part of the
No, you can.
Limited format. You can.
I think you can.
Okay, so that's a good example. Would be to be able to have somebody like that who generates more bystanders, so you're increasing your actions because you can do more things like Devil Dinosaur. Because those guys, their actions don't come out of your pool. So it's just looking for things that are already available to you without all the extraneous stuff. You can't. Call in an ID and all of a sudden drop the heavy with a green arrow blast, so you got to deal with what's on the map more. Is usually what my sort of thought process is when it comes to limited format. I, in general, like limited format, though, in spite of rule changes, I still have a lot of trepidation about Unimind. Still have trepidation.
May I butt in right there?
Yeah, go for it.
Take over.
That's what I'm most excited about with Darwin. Is it's the limited format that he's relevant. Once we're back in the Colossal Retaliation, they're just going to jump across, and it's going to hurt you to do it to him. But in limited, you get to fight pickup power with a 35-point piece.
Did you say, I Skyped out for a second. Was that Darwin you mentioned?
Yeah, totally. Darwin has Darwin definitely has more potential in the limited format. We all
I was
know
gonna say
that. And that definitely puts Unimind to have some more fear in him. And again, at 35 points, Darwin has a lot more potential to show up in a team than spending 150 points on your Unimind. So yeah, it's a much more open format. Still don't like that Unimind though. I still don't even. I don't want to worry about him. You know what I mean? I don't want to. I want to do my thing. I don't want to feel like.
I have to play 275 points of Unimind, or else if they score one thing, they win.
Yeah. So anyway,
I'm just gonna call out Mike because Mike, you were the first guy I ever saw use a Unimind.
Oh, totally. I did. Oh, I used it right out of the gate before I even realized how. I knew it was gross. I didn't realize it was meta gross.
Mike likes to wallow in all the shit and just be like,
Yeah, what you did is you brought the showered version of him, but then somebody else is like, nah, he can be dirtier than that. Let's be dirty.
That's what happened with us when we opened our Thor set. I was like, hey, this looks kind of cool. I'm gonna play this at full. What are you gonna play, Jen? She's like, oh, I'll do these like Chase as Guardians we pulled. It's like, cool. Oh, I'm sorry. It's like the further you read, you're just like, okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of reading to get through. I remember when we were doing our initial preview break, we were going through the figure review. I'm just going through that card, and I was like, oh, this guy's going to be relevant. I don't know how, but he's going to be relevant. And that was mostly because I was very tired and doing a cold read of the card.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt when I played him. I'm like, oh, he'll be good. He'll be relevant, and I'll play him. But I didn't really see the extent of his grossness.
Didn't see that he'd be the only relevance.
Yes.
right.
Michael, anything else you want to add on there while we're still on the subject?
About just limited as a whole?
Yeah, adding on to anything you've already said and whatnot.
I feel like I'm playing like a 265 point team no matter what I'm building. Oh, it's like I almost want to play Leech and Darwin at the same time just because I don't have to worry about pickup power at that point. But that just seems so much to be putting in when there's so many other things you could do for that. And there's so many more fun things, like Mike is saying, that you can run, because this is the time that it's like, it's not the super 100% meta. You can actually play a team of King Sharks and whatever, or you can play a swarm of Metalmen, because, by the way, another thing I didn't mention, their move actions don't count towards your total either. So you could just play a bunch of them if you wanted to. Like, I don't know, this is the time I want to have fun and not just worry if I go to a ROC. Of course, you're going to see Unimind because people want to win. And it's like...
Yeah. And that's one of those things, it's the illusion of the limited format before I get to Jay. And I talk about, my thoughts on it, or let him talk about his thoughts, is that there's this illusion that, oh, yes, I get to play whatever I want in the limited format. And that's the falsehood to the biggest falsehood that there is. You can play whatever you want. You're going to lose to whatever the three most dominant teams that end up showing up to the ROC are. And there's always three dominant teams that show up to the ROC limited format. Now, sometimes the grander metagame, we do get one dominant team. I'm not going to lie, that happens. More often than not, the more resources we've had, the more, as we discussed, I think, either last week or the week before, one of the most varied, most diverse metagames we had was when we had 8 different colors of the same resource.
Yeah.
Or 9 different colors, of the same resource, right? So, I mean, we were all allowed to play different teams at the time, and like the less and less resources we get, and the more and more of them they get shifted out of the game, the more and more we're starting to see these very condensed metagames. And when characters are all there is, well, guess what? Characters that dominate, they dominate. You know what I mean? So
we're down to 1 resource after this rotation.
And that
not much of one.
I mean, do you really consider the Punisher van a resource?
We've had a lot of Punishers
in name.
in name, yeah. Jay, sir, your thoughts on the limited?
It's always lovely not knowing what to play, except for when there's the couple big things that are going to get played. So I have mixed feelings, but as much as I hate ID cards and all the nonsense, at least there's some sort of way that you can know that your characters might be able to do some stuff. Like, I can play, I don't know, if I'm playing a 120-point character, I at least know that I have a good backup if something happens or something unexpected happens. The security and the variety that you can get off of resources, ID cards, whatnot, is good in that it's not a matter of playing only the good stuff. Like, I feel like you're able to play what you want more in constructed as opposed to limited. But there are definitely some good trade-offs going on. And we have this set coming out, and then we have a whole other set, although I guess the Avenger set won't affect limited as much, well, because it'll almost be over and because of all the 2x2s. But
that's what I was thinking.
We'll see what people decide to start to play.
Hey, Jay, I don't know if you can see this. I'm trying to screen share it.
Yeah, what about
this? Is a 300-point X Factor team.
Leech, Beast, Iceman, Wiz, Kid, Darwin.
Nice.
I don't see Quicksilver for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't care. All I know is this is awesomely gross.
That is cool.
I like that.
I do like that.
Exactly 300 points. This is destiny right here. Let me just tell you.
Now,
What about?
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, what's been my favorite aspect of the limited format as a whole is always the fact that all of a sudden characters do become resources, and then I get back into my schizophrenic days of, oh my gosh, how many figures are you going to put on the board, Jason? And a lot of the times it's right up front. Other times it's maybe later, other turns and so on. This team I played this weekend opened my eyes and reminded me, oh, there's some stuff I can do with creating characters and creating bystanders when characters die. So as an example, as I was using Daredevil and Black Panther, both creating physical characters, and then Hades would trigger whenever they died, bringing me out my bystanders for him. So it's there's some really weird, cool stuff that you can really pull off in the limited, and from there, you got to think. Theme becomes limiting sometimes, and then theme's a grand thing at other times, right? Like sometimes theme is your source of prob, or sometimes not having theme is the reason your team can succeed. And limited kind of helps that. It also gives more value to characters like Wiz Kid, who Mike just pointed out is a really great character because he gives +1 range, +1 attack, and +1 damage to a character he just happens to be next to. And once you start to imagine how many characters you can get on the board at once, energy explosion is not that common anymore, kids. It's becoming less and less, common in the game, and only does 2 damage, right? So if you can get some toughness out there, it's pretty cool. Anyway, my thoughts around limited right now for me. I'm just gonna play it. I've never done well in it. I'm not gonna lie. I need so much stuff happening in my face to actually focus on the game. It's so ask anybody.
I know that feeling.
You can give me a thing.
Like the face
I have
stuff.
to focus on one figure on the board. I'm going to lose.
I mean, look at the chess match we had at Worlds where we both had basically the same 20 different things going on, and we're both just dancing around trying to figure it out.
Yep.
Do I make moves 37B or 37AC mixed with a 57B? Okay, so now I've got my turn. I'm going to TK this, pull this out, do this, and then do that. All right, it did or didn't work. Or I do action A, which is a Maridroid, so it doesn't matter if I succeed, you're moving. So, I gotta love that character so much. But yeah, overall, it's limited. Limited is exactly that. It's a little bit more limited if you want to be super competitive. But it does. Oh, sorry. Yes, Tom. I'm sorry.
Oh,
it
no
got back to
problem.
me somehow, and I didn't let you talk, and I need to hear your voice.
I actually don't have a lot to add to what you've all said, but I did want to say one thing. One thing that's it's not necessarily the most competitive, but one thing that's kind of cool is to try to figure out if there are any ways of doing limited equivalencies of things we usually see in standard modern. So if you're thinking, well, we won't be seeing any Colossal Retaliation, then play Stiltman. And if you're thinking, well, we're not going to see any entity possession, then play Night Lantern. And if you're thinking, we're not going to see any ID card like call-ins, play a Chameleon, play a shifting focus character. It's kind of fun. Deadpool, Superman, Belphegor. Yes, he's good. Like again, but then again, those are good in both situations. But for me, it's always trying to find what kind of simulates the limited thing, because I tend to assume that my opponents are quicker than I am, which is usually true. Which means that they're designing a team that said, "Boy, I would have played this team all along, but Colossal Retaliation would have killed it." So then I want to try to find a way to get Colossal Retaliation on my team, even though it's limited. At the moment, there's only really one option, but I also think that it's kind of like I look to characters that maybe people are using the limited format as a primary counter for, like the Green Lanterns, as if they needed to be any better, are even better because at least now no one's going to be calling in any Hulks to go running through their things. If they don't bring the ability to run through barrier, then 4 or 5 SR Green Lanterns will simply lock down your team, period. There's nothing you can do. The guys with stop clicks have less to fear in a world where you can't bring out a Green Arrow, but I think that a Chase Green Arrow on the board in Limited would be very usable because he's not nearly as poorly defended as he seems, considering you can't shoot him until you get close, as long as you're playing him smart and you surround him with a good team. Death can still carry Mjolnir in the Limited format. Lex Joker can still be awesome in the Limited format. For the time being, Mr. Nobody can still pull your opponent's special objects over to your side of the board. So, there's still some stuff. It's nice to look back, I think, when you're looking at the current Limited setup.
I do agree. So, limited format limits your thinking, limits the scope of what's super competitive, but at the same time, it does allow a different level of thinking, and participating in it is a good thing. It's one of those things I like to stress when I'm doing episodes of Metafix is think outside of the box by thinking outside of the box. Putting yourself in situations where you have to think outside the box can really help you go a long way. And just to kind of relate it, as I do often, to my old days of Magic the Gathering when I used to be semi-good at that game. I started in my younger days building on a very limited set of resources. I didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of cards, didn't have a big collection. But then all my buddies would turn around and say, "Jason, how are you beating us with your stack of cards that cost a nickel each?" And it was just a general idea of knowing how everything worked. Now, that's not easy in Heroclix at all in the competitive realm. But when you work in limited resources, you know how to think harder and smarter about the things that you have available to you. And, it goes a long way towards making you a better team builder, is take away something and then try to build around it. It's what I do every year. It's like, okay, what's the big thing? What's the thing that I have to beat? Okay, well, I'm not allowed to use that. I do that to myself. It's Jason's team building. It's like, what is everybody using? I'm going to try something else. Unless I'm giving absolutely no choice. Like when it came to Worlds this past year, I looked at it and I said I had no choice. I had zero choice. I had to play Jakeem Thunder and at least a tank. that was a requirement. You needed to do that. And I did okay with it, but anyway.
I have a question for you.
What?
What are your thoughts on, because of how different Avengers Defenders is going to be for the future, for the next 2-3 years, the limited format being just no Colossal Retaliation, but allowing those bigger bases?
I don't know, man. I've got my issues with the number of format differences on the limited and whatnot. I think just strictly limiting the absence of Colossal Retaliation and still allowing the bases is kind of a 50-50. But at the same time, it's just, is the limited format going to be worth having once all the resources are gone?
Right. That's more where I was going. Like maybe it's time to re-examine what an alternate play format looks like.
Yeah. Because I think what their goal was initially was just figures, and then people wanted things, and they're like, no, you can't have. All right, have the things, because
they were more corner cases. Like no one was playing special objects because resources were better, so limited gave the opportunity to give them a test run. Nowadays, they're just as viable, sometimes more so.
And sometimes when limited disallows certain rules, then sometimes a character is officially pulled out of that format because of that rule. For instance, back in the days of bystanders, not like when limited was actually no tactics was the name of the format. No tactics disallowed bystanders, so I wasn't allowed to use. Like I'm basically not using Alyosha Craven, who I always want to use. I'm not allowed to use Phantom X. I'm not allowed. Like you actually pull what you want to be using on the board out of the game. So it's really a toss up. And if it was up to me, I'd say try to push for a figure only format and get the items and the special terrain out. But even then, I don't feel like that's enough anymore. And it's just play the game. It's almost going to be not worth the limited format. I mean, you're not really taking, I don't think, enough out of the game once we get there.
It's time to get to the nothing but commons format.
Right. Speaking of, thank you for that segue. We have a Patreon, and that's something that's part of my Patreon project. Patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. We've actually got a brand new goal. If we hit the $200 mark, I will start organizing what we'll call the All Common League. Figures allowed in this league tournament are going to be commons only. And the way I envision this is the reason we want to get to this budget level is that I want to get pricing for it. But I don't want stores to have to pay anything up front.
It'll be uncommons.
Incentivize. The prices will be uncommons. That's a whole stack of uncommons. In fact, I got a bunch of them already. I'm going to just throw them to you guys. The stores are going to run the events. They're going to report the events. They're going to on the win and whatever. And then they're going to tell me, they're going to send me a message with the teams that were on there, et cetera, so that I can, one, keep track of what's going on in the format and possibly affect the format in some way, shape, or form. If I see sheets full of cables, I'm going to start going to do something. Or just kind of keep an eye on things and make sure people are being honest. And then stores will be incentivized based on the number of people that show up in their events, with extra pricing from us, or they'll be like certain stores will become the hub store based on their attendance in these tournaments. This is all kind of hypothetical still, and this is all the stuff I want to put together when we hit that mark. So if we can hit the $200 per month mark on our Patreon, I will officially create the Common League and get it up and running. So, keep your eyes on that. I'd say we're about the halfway point on that right now. We're at $100 a month on our Patreon, which is great. It's fantastic. I want to thank all those patrons. And one of the bonuses you do get as being part of the Patreon project is access to our patron Discord. We yap at each other all the time. We chit chat. We talk. We insult each other. We insult each other's teams. We insult my teams. We insult me a lot. I get insulted a lot in the show. It's really weird. Or at least in the Discord. Either way, it's a lot of fun to chit chat with our patrons and take a couple seconds out throughout our day to talk to you guys and have a direct line to them. And we also have other goals. Our patron action tokens, which we just recently shipped out the last 2 months of. So we have these made by Big Bully Games. Wonderful guys have been doing fantastic work with our tokens, and they, it's part of the incentive programs that we have. At $5 a month, you can get early access to some videos. Some of you guys have already seen Metafix already, which just went up just before the show. So these are all the incentives we have for the Patreon, and we really do want to get the All Common League together because it might be nice to have a format that's worth kind of adjusting to. If the ROC wants to take it, they can have it. I'll be the test ground for it, whatever it takes. We'll run this league for a year if we can hit that mark, and we'll see how it goes from there. All right, anything before we get to fan questions, guys?
Nope.
Tom, Mike,
No, sir.
Michael, Jay.
Nah.
All right, cool. Fan questions it is, and we start with the window that I have lost. I used to be organized on this show. What happened to me?
Yeah, it's true. That was many years ago.
It was many years ago. All right. Well, we got 3 questions from Mick Miller. First, who's your favorite and least favorite figures from the new set now that they've been revealed? I still hate that title Professor X. I hate him a lot because he's a title character. If that was just named Professor X and not a title character, not a super rare, you wouldn't hear peep from me because I'd ignore the character altogether. But because he takes up such a high slot, I'm not such a big fan. I'm more what I am a fan of. I swear I'm just making this up. Actually, I haven't had a chance to really soak it all in. I like the Prime Magneto. I want to make him work. I want to do something with him, and he seems very interesting to me. Tom?
For favorite, I gotta go with my gut and with my heart, which is Penance. I'm so glad we're finally getting one. The dial is decent. It's not like it's a bad dial, but it's really just the fact that I'm so happy to finally get that Penance. It's not emo speedball. This is the real deal, and I remember I fell in love with that character reading Generation X comics back in the day. So I'm really looking forward to it. And for my least favorite character, I'm probably going to go with the non-prime Emma Frost SR, just because it's such an underwhelming SR pull.
Yeah, I can see that. Mike?
I'm going to go in reverse order, only because I can't disagree with your pick for the worst figure, Jay, in that Prime Professor X. I hate him. He's everything wrong.
It's not even the Prime. It's the title.
Sorry. Title character Professor X, because he's a title character that doesn't function as a title character, because you can't really make that happen for him. He's not attacking. He's just, I don't understand him. He's poorly designed. I'm going to not go with the obvious pick for favorite figure, which everybody knows really is Iceman for me, because I love Iceman. And instead, I'm actually going to go with Mr. Sinister. Pretty excited for this chase figure. I do love villains, and I think he's going to be a lot of fun and has much more potential to him than when you first look at him. So that's my pick.
All right. Michael.
For favorite, honestly, I don't know. Like, I like the Iceman. Like this set didn't like super excite me, in all honesty. I was a little disappointed in the power of it. I do typically focus on stuff that's more meta strength. And until I see what ID cards we get, I really don't know how to feel about it. But the Iceman's always cool. But I have to agree with all of y'all with the horrible title character. That's very upsetting.
Hate the Professor X. The hate for Professor X continues. Jay?
Favorite is kind of a 2-in-1, because like they kind of go together. Like the super rare Magic doesn't have exiles to start, but she gets churned from the one that has the exiles keyword, so they kind of go together. So basically the Magics. That Dark Child is really potent, and I always love negative traits. And the fact that it lowers her cost to become the monster that she is going to be really fun. My least favorite is the super rare Cyclops, since I didn't want to say Professor X again.
That's why I said Emma Frost, to be fair.
I'm glad at least two of you got the hint. I took the easy one.
I don't like Cyclops that much to begin with. Having him at 150 points, I feel it's just way too many for the character. I hate Mid-Dial Mastermind. I hate the fact that he has the effect based on attacking characters that your opponent attacked, but the fact that it combos with Mastermind makes no sense. It's like, I try and punch Cyclops. He masterminds it. Then afterwards he says, "You villain, you attacked my student." And then the student's like, "Wait, what? You literally threw me in front of the bus there."
It's very accurate.
And on top of all, I don't disagree, but on top of all that, just the fact that his defenses are just kind of terrible for the points. Like, he has willpower as an actual power for 150. And yeah, he has the traded energy shield, but I'm going to close attack him, and he's going to have no top dial defenses, essentially. And he also doesn't have anything top dial if he's on the opponent's side of the map to actually get Psychic Blast to have damage output that's worth it. So, not a character I like. The dial doesn't work. Has power combinations I don't like. Just does not work for me at all. And also it's Cyclops.
They confirmed. Cyclops is the worst.
Cyclops, roses are red, violets are red. Everything is red.
All right, Mick goes on to ask, Can you think of a time that you would run Prodigy over Leech? Why not both? Because, I mean, Prodigy just gives Prodigy and another character on your team whatever they're picking. Leech limits what you, I mean, you know, neither one limits the other one, but there's not a lot of cases I'm going to be choosing Prodigy over Leech unless I'm looking at my opponent and going, go ahead, pick it. My team's getting
I don't think they do that similar a thing. I think Leech is much more versatile, but
Yeah,
I don't think we're comparing apples and apples.
No, yeah, I was going to say you're comparing apples to grapes.
Yeah.
But in answer to his question, I can think of a time that I would choose Prodigy over Leech, and that would be if I was making a New Mutants theme team, because Leech does not have New Mutants theme.
So Mike actually has an answer for that. There you go.
There you
What
go.
about you, Michael?
Real answer.
Nah, I would most likely use Leech. Though it does seem fun to run all three, Darwin, Leech, and Prodigy, to be like, I dare you to pick a power because I'm taking the power, and you're not taking this one, and you're hurting yourself for doing it.
By the way, and by the way,
And have I mentioned?
The reason I can justify this is they add up to less than 100 points, and I played Copycat at 100 points plenty of times. So I can justify putting part of my team just to mess with my opponent.
Hey, man, some people have played Copycat in the past. Very few.
Yeah.
But when you're playing for it, it didn't show up. All right. Jay.
They're exactly the same number of points. It's kind of hard to say, although, I mean, more keywords on Prodigy is a good thing, but I would just rather limit my opponent than take stuff from my opponent. So, yeah.
I think one of the big keys, too, is that Leech also comes with Outwit. Like, really good Outwit.
Yeah.
It's one of those characters where they do two things, and you'd pay what they cost for both.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
The tiny, so you carry this little dude around with you, even if you can't fly.
That's why that X Factor team's good, because the 100-point beast can carry Leech, and they can both just come forward and mess with
blank all the dials. It's like,
and again, even better, played in Golden Age and have Leech pick up the Omega Drive. It just gets craze balls. Awesome.
I think that, like, I play Prodigy when I want a tertiary attacker who can sometimes hit outside his point bracket, if you want to say that.
That's fair. And his last question here: do you think Darwin has a chance in a limited format without the Surtur and ID card problem? Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. 100% unanimous agreement. I think we talked about it earlier too. So yeah, absolutely has a place in that environment. All right. Next up, Giordano Petticello. Oh, Giordano. He's from Quebec. We've seen him before. Do you foresee any new meta teams emerging after X-Men, or just better, more Shredder teams? At first, we'll see new stuff. But then once we've kind of solved it, we'll see less new stuff, except for wacky people like us. It's funny. We talk about the metagame and the competitive game so much on this show, and yet so many of us who are on this show just go against the grain so oftentimes to our detriment, other times not so much.
That does win a lot, though.
I'm either doing that or I'm judging, so I might not even be playing half the time.
What do you think, Tom?
I think that, well, with every new set, it's a new toolbox, and this is no different.
All right. Mike?
I agree to that, and I would also say that I think from what we've seen of some low point game-changing figures in this set, I think, of course, we're going to see some new meta out there. We're going to see some stuff, and it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be horrible, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be sad, and it's going to be Heroclix.
All right. Michael?
The more I look at that team that Mike threw out there, the more I like it. Like it's a theme team. It can actually beat most of the meta pretty well. You're carrying around outwits. You have theme probs. You have lockdown. It's actually might be the best thing to come out of this.
See? And it's named theme. Love it.
Mike all over.
And at first, that's going to be amazing. And then I feel like people are going to eventually get lazy and go back into, oh, I'm going to play Unimind. I'm going to play Shredder. I'm going to play Jakeem. And it'll stale out again. But while it's new and fresh and fancy, it'll be really nice.
All right. Jay?
I feel like this is going to end up being more a set of enablers than a set of, oh my God, new main thing.
Like Mike.
Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, like what? What are we talking about? We're talking about those the 3 pick a power counters. We're talking about Mr. Sinister is good for ID cards, so basically more of the same. There's no primary attackers here really outside of Magneto, a title character. I just don't see much of a whole new revolution of the meta outside of pick a power being basically gone.
And that's because we can't see the revolution because we haven't seen the ID cards yet.
I mean, Gold Ball's got one, so anything's possible.
Gold balls.
And we know, of course, Storm is going to be on any team that can call her out.
Sure.
Wait, really? Wait, which Storm? You mean the really good one?
Yeah.
Really?
You know, now I'm thinking about it. You'd almost think that the Michaels think that their team would have the X factor required to win.
Oh.
No.
Good
Good night, everybody. All the rest of
Ladies
the
and
comments.
gentlemen, it's official.
Hey.
Chris Stockhouse has a question. The
Hey.
man who made the stamp that I swear one day I will get ink for and I will
I was gonna
forget to
say.
put on something important. All right. He asks, I hope everyone had a good time at the theme event in Michigan last weekend. Jay, I believe you were there.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for the 400-point modern limited super qualifier in Kentucky this weekend. What piece do you expect to see on the most teams? What piece do you think will be on teams in multiples? Hopefully we see some neat teams Saturday, and we'll have some great discussion topics for the next week's episode.
Green Lantern.
Unimind.
Wait, which Green Lantern?
The SR.
Small one.
Alan Scott, right?
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah, multiples. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Shredders.
Wait, is PJ going? Flora Colossus.
He's
Well, it's limited.
No, he's not writing this one. No.
It's limited regardless, isn't it?
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, it's limited. It's limited.
Uh,
Shredders. You'll see Shredders. You'll
Shredders.
see Unimind.
Let's
You will
see.
see Devil Dinosaur. Somebody's going to do that. I'm not going, but somebody's going to do it, right?
Somebody's got to play a Nightshade, man. The figure is way more effective than people realize.
You're going to see symbiotes. I'm going to change it to a...
Guaranteed symbiotes everywhere.
Yeah. Just gonna be planted the symbiotes. Well done.
Whiteboard markers nowhere. God, I'm not even drinking alcohol. I'm just
Oof.
tired.
I sure am.
I'm exhausted. All right. Anybody else wanted to add something before we move on to the next question? Like, did we cover everything?
Nick Fury.
Nick
Two
Fury.
of them.
There you go.
If
Double.
Jin's there, you can guarantee there's a Fury on the board. So.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna play Green Arrow on the board. I swear to you that it's got legs.
It'll
I mean,
happen.
Gotham theme team sounds fun.
Mhm.
You know, Green Arrow's, because of the change to the defense power thing, Green Arrow is going to have some legs against those Unimind teams that are going to show up. So, yeah, I don't disagree with you either. Because those Uniminds, even though they're playing high points, I mean, 5 clicks is 5 clicks, man.
Also, Nighthawk Prime. I think we'll see that.
Stop it. Tournament's not fun anymore.
See you guys in a year.
Darwin on the board with a green arrow so that they can't use the shape
Not
change.
this weekend.
Not this weekend.
Yeah,
That set ain't out till the 14th.
That's right.
All right. Next up, William Dickey. First off, good luck to anyone going to Lexington, Kentucky this weekend. I'm sad I won't be able to crush you with my skeet, Reddit Tilly, but I hope everyone has fun. Skeet. Second, since there's not yet a complete list of ID cards yet revealed for this set, which of the included figures in Xavier's school do you see becoming common call-in figures? Assume they in fact get ID cards. Which do you not want to see? I personally hope they keep Leech off an ID just to force people to put 30 points on the board. not 3. I can. Oh, sir, I got camera problems already. Yeah, I'm definitely agreeing with the leech thing. I don't want to see that. I want to see a Wolverine that includes Old Man Logan, so that Old Man Logan has a purpose in life. I'm campaigning for it because that Old Man Logan is so good, but he really needs an ID card to bring him in because I am not putting him on a map ahead of time.
So you're expecting 3 Wolverine ID cards, all new Wolverine,
No, I'm expecting
Logan?
2 personally. One all new Wolverine, which is a student card, and a Wolverine faculty card, which has a qualifying name of Old Man Logan.
Okay.
That's what I'm hoping for. I don't want 3 ID cards for Wolverine. I mean, geez Louise, guys. Would they do something like that? They didn't even do that in Wolverine and the X-Men.
Is fair.
Tom?
Well, I mean, I don't want to be obvious, but I'm going to have to say Iceman. We got a lot of options, and everyone likes to bring in a pulse waiver, so.
Yep. And he's got the other one's still got legs to go on for some time. So
yeah, there's actually more than one good. Like he's one of those ones where you could maybe sideline a couple of different options depending upon what kind of opponent you're against.
The lockdown will be really nice with the UXM.
All right, Mr. Mike.
I would assume we'll see an Iceman. It just feels like that's kind of inevitable, and of course, I would want that because I like Iceman. But I would be excited to see a Kid Gladiator student ID. I think that'd be a good one. I think he'd be fun to call in just for a big smash and run thing there. So
Good for 3 points.
Yeah,
that's something I'd be excited for.
All right, Michael.
I've said it ever since IDs were announced. I've been waiting to see the Beast ID card happen so that we can call in the UXM one and just turn everything off.
It's so gross.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
Yeah. All right, Jay. No working mic. Oh no,
no working mic. I'll just answer for him. Magic SR because everybody likes having both exploit and penetrating psychic blast as their call-in option.
You are beyond wrong.
Well, we can hear you now, Jay. If you want to.
Oh, now you can hear me.
Jay was having some mic issues, and now he's.
I have mic issues all the time because
there's too many of them.
I was gonna actually say Beast because Beast is cool in general, but darn, all the ID cards I want are the ones that you guys already said because like I like the Defender, X-Men, X-Factor guys. Dust, call in for a turn, be annoying. Sounds fun.
Ileana.
My little snowflake.
All right. Next up, John J. Drapp. Out of every WizKids World Championship team, which was your favorite and which do you hate the most?
Ugh.
I hated the Ghost Rider.
Yeah, that's
team.
number one.
No offense for Daniel Jones, great person. I understand. I don't hate the people. I hate the teams. But Daniel was also forced into a situation where it was like team base or Ghost Rider grossness. That was your option. With the exception of the Blue Beetle team that kind of came out of nowhere on a couple teams. Was really driving some people nuts. But ultimately, those were the 2 teams.
That's
that team,
worst, for sure.
I did not like it at all. I was a big fan of Pat's team, the Green Lantern battery. It was a Green Lantern battery, the Prime
Lyra,
thank you, and the Iron Pharaoh. Because it was, it was fully based on the Iron Pharaoh, killing, stick and run, and that's not a bad strategy. Get a thing dead, move out, don't let your opponent hit you. And it wasn't necessarily a bad team. It was a very interesting team that had figures, with the exception of the Iron Pharaoh, that not a lot of people were using at the time. So I liked it. That was my pick for it. Tom, what about you?
I agree with the least favorite being the Ghost Rider Heroes for Hire junk. It was bad. No offense to the player. It's just a bad time for the meta.
Yeah. Understand? We all accept that this team had to exist, and the player who had to play it, broken meta teams are not fun to have to look at. And when the meta looks like that, it really comes down to a player sticking out above the rest. So you got to give Daniel Jones credit for everybody's playing this. He won with it. So
I sure can't remember them all, and so the only one that stands out to me in my memory is the turning the clock back to the George Masu Shazam, double Jason Blood, double Scarlet Witch. Back in the day when you got theme probs for generic theme, and so and you could use them when you already had probs. So it was 5 figures that all had prob, and he had theme probs, so it was just impossible to miss. Just prob abuse. That was cool.
And of course, it's always good to see a Shazam fan using his figure to win, right? So
yeah.
Wait, no, that was when he won to make the Black Adam.
Yes, but he used Shazam.
Right.
To
You
do
had
it.
Black Adam sitting on the plasma.
Get to be a Black Adam fan, you kind of have to like the Shazam comic in the first place.
Oh yeah.
Mike?
Yeah, funnily enough, that's actually the team I would have said I liked the most, because knowing how much he liked Shazam and Black Adam and that material, that he played that team, and it was ridiculous with the probs. So I kind of really liked that about it, and that he parlayed that into creating a figure that was, derived from that in theory, in essence, by making a Black Adam. So that was really cool. Again, being a theme guy. Least favorite, it was a tie between the Heroes for Hire Evilness, because I even played that at an event at Fan Expo, and it was super gross, and I felt bad about it afterwards. Of course, always after.
Like, my prizes! Oh,
Yeah.
guys!
but the other was the Metron Nightcrawler.
Yep.
Grossness.
Single joints again.
Yeah,
We don't hate the man. He happens to win in rough metas.
It just was like, I hated that time. Everybody was playing that or almost exactly that, and it just felt like insanely stale, and I guess it felt more like dice roll win, as opposed to, when you see mirror matches, it really comes down to like sometimes more dice than strategy, because you've already got these two great players against each other with two solid teams. So yeah, it just didn't feel like a good time for interesting meta.
Yeah. All right, Michael.
Well, I want to be different.
Be different.
For favorite, I'm gonna have to go with the most recent one. The fact that Howard won when everyone else was playing a resource without a resource.
Yeah. He does deserve credit for that.
I honestly did not expect a team without a resource to be sitting at the top table, let alone winning the entire event. And I had to play him during that event, and he definitely beat me. Like, man deserved the win for sure.
In my defense, he got angry at my dice. With the same level of anger I had towards mine.
They're just very angry dice then. The least favorite, I'm gonna just carbon copy what Mike said. That way I don't have to repeat it again.
Mike's think alike, eh? Gotta be like Mike.
Gotta be like
Right,
Mike.
Jay.
It's like a cult thing. There's a little cult thing.
The cult of Mike.
Yeah.
My turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
For favorite, I'm gonna go with Morgan Le Fay, Wasp, Scarlet Witch.
Ooh,
Alex
Villa's
Villa's
one.
team.
yeah, that was
That was a
actually
good team.
good choice.
That was probably the best worlds ever as far as variety. We've talked about it before. The only shared element was you had the gauntlet, because it was the only resource, and maybe you had a Scarlet Witch. And it was an all-female Avengers team. That's very cool. Least favorite, because WizKids errated the game element in question, but then they brought it back because apparently learning from our mistakes is not a thing we do. So every time I see a Shredder, I think of the cop cars, and that is just...
In the Shredder's defense,
Don't defend them.
he
They
does
don't need
not have. They have 10 clicks instead of 11, and they're 90 points and not 68.
Well, you need a
Wow.
pilot.
And they don't have an ATA that let them move and use their ability.
You're right. The Shredders are very balanced. I'm convinced.
And to be fair to the cop cars, Jake did at least make one attack per game because he had the whole set up to Talia, do the flurry blades. He actually did roll dice. But yeah, just watching that world was just so painful. It was just,
That is another
So
thing.
bad.
Is shredders don't move your characters.
Are you done defending the shredders?
Hey, you know what? I can defend the shredders to death compared to the cop cars. Do you want to go? We'll go.
It's because you're a Turtles fan.
Yeah.
What? Well, I mean,
No, no, and
Bias.
he hates rolling dice. He doesn't. That's to be fair. Dice are the worst.
Blinded by the half shell.
you guys are all just haters.
That's true.
Hey, I've got a message for you, Turtles. Shut it.
I get it.
You know,
really
and
want-
here's the thing: you guys wouldn't be angry if they hadn't made like 5 different shredders and all do this thing, because the cop car was just one thing that you could play multiple times. All I had to do was make it unique, and it was not even close to as bad as the shredders could be.
Wasn't that line
It's so
something
adorable.
like,
He's keeping on going.
like your mouth will get you in trouble, Miss O'Neill, or something? That's,
Yeah, I love that Tom's going there, buddy. That was all for you, man.
Tom's gonna go there. Tom's gonna go there. It's like almost like shredders being carried by some other thing that you could kill with somebody who ignores characters that has one arm.
mouth gets you in trouble. It's good.
Drop a Turtles line and Tom's all over it. I love it.
All right.
Where to?
Next up, and Nicholas Matthew. We're getting to the chat now, so if you guys are watching live, get your questions in the chat now. But big capital letters questions so I can catch it because you've been talkative today. All right, Nicholas Matthew, gents. Seeing how this episode is focused on data mining of recent sets, what are some trends you would like to see continue, and what are some you'd like to see improved upon? How about those defense powers, guys? What happened to them all?
Mine's quick, and you nailed it earlier. I as much as I like the lower cost dials, I think a bit more of a spread would be good.
Yes.
In my perfect world, it's just a bit more spread out.
Yeah,
that's all.
75 points.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a little more 75, 80 point ish.
Yeah.
That so between like 40 to 80 is to me the sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because one thing as well is that the when you include more characters, sealed is a very approachable format for the most part for newer players. At least it should be. But when you have more figures on the board and your new players have to focus on all of them, it's a little overwhelming. And I think we need more options to be able to play a few less figures on the board. And that's why I think 75 was that sweet spot for a while that we almost hit. And then we were there and then we dodged it. And we went way low. So Michael?
Honestly, y'all took the words out of my mouth. I like the lower stuff, but not so low that you have 20 million things going on. We don't need like a field full of Flora Colossus 10-point type stuff. We need maybe 4 figures, 75 points each. That's manageable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can do up and down from that a little bit, but I don't know. I like the idea of the thematicness that 75% of the set does work with keywords. You are going to make a theme team if you really try, kind of thing. The things I don't like about it, probably like you said, the fact that it's toughness maybe. Like all these chases that have this pretty cool power trait thing, and then it's like, oh, too bad you almost killed me with that one shot you did, so can't really build up on it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jay?
To bounce off of the lower point things, I would like to see characters debut in this game and not be literally 30-point support pieces that do only one thing. Like, it would have been cool. It would have been cool if Darwin did a thing besides be the hard counter.
Yeah, I do feel like Darwin got ripped off because he was more character. He was more powerful in the comics when we did actually see him. He did a little more than just stand around.
Yeah, we need
I
to
would
follow.
prefer if characters didn't debut as just tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more debuts like Our Man, where they're balanced, interesting, playable characters.
I wasn't going to bring him
Get
up.
wrecked.
Oh, I hate you.
Oh,
Tom
Jen
of an extra smarmy.
her part she hates the most about the set is that she didn't get a new Lockheed.
Oh, yeah.
I can understand that. Ladies like Lockheed.
That I'm a little disappointed by the lack of Lockheed.
That was total accidental alliteration, by the way.
Ladies like a lot of Lockheed.
Ladies like Lockheed. All of a sudden, just
it's a good one for an Irish accent.
ladies like Lockheed.
The ladies like a lot of Lockheed.
And they're always after me Lucky Charms too. Oh,
Don't think at it.
we're gonna
Next
get
up.
protested by the Irish.
Nolan Lake. Looks like it's a rules question, which will be pretty quick. If a vampire heals past their starting line through line one click through using steel energy, for example, can I then heal the character with support? Nope.
No, the rule book specifically says if you heal up that way, you can only use that form of healing, not any other.
There we go. That's all, folks. KJ Foster, on Metafix, you stated ID card placement strategy on Teleporter. Please explain why, place, where, and why. Me and Tom kind of spitballed this a while back. He explained one part of it. I kind of said, okay, I think you're kind of right. And it's mostly because I'd agreed with it and thought about it ahead of time. It's like, yeah, Tom's kind of reassuring me what I'd originally thought, which was the sooner you use them, the earlier you put them on your ID card dispenser, because that's when you're going to see the refueling, right? So if I have an ID card on slot number 1, I'm more likely to see slot number 1 show up. But at the same time, the one I use on slot number 1 is probably the one I want to reuse again, which means when I get to the slot number 2 reuse after using the one that's on slot 2, I have now the option of number 1 or number 2, because you can put any ID card that you've used on the teleporter on an open slot that's got the parachute on it, right? So you use it in order of most wanting to be repeated. And generally at the end of it, you put whatever you want to be a real boy, because whatever, you're not using it, right?
Yeah, real boy or inspiration.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing I would amend that with is that you're slightly more likely to land on 2 than you are to land on 1. Odd as that may seem, I won't get into the math of it, but it's a slight difference. So like the most important reload should probably go on number 2, as it's the one you're most likely to hit, and your real boy ideally should be on not 6, because 6 is ideally the one that if you how's it work again? Like it's basically the idea that once you get that far in, you want to be able to push past. And so ideally, if you could have called 6 out earlier, you can reload it with something that you can then call in to push you to 25. So because you don't want to get caught at the very end of the dial with nothing to call out, let your real boy live somewhere in 4 or 5, so that if you hit 6, you can reload it to push you to the end, as opposed to hitting 6 and only having your 6 character to call out.
I think I usually see 6 courtesy of getting my butt kicked in anyway. So
I don't think that very many people play it that way. That's just the way that's worked for me.
Yeah, I know we had like 5 or 6. We had an agreement on that somewhere, and I think
it's basically 2 and 5 are my principles. Like 5 is the real boy, and 2 is the main call out.
Yeah,
I think we also had a thing with like my dice luck where if I need a low number, it's not going to show up a low number. It's going to show up a high number. So I was constantly getting the 6 on my like inspiration roll. It's like, all right, just let whatever the strongest inspiration is goes on 6, and it's usually my real boy calling anyway. Mike, any thoughts on it, or are we good?
No, I agree 100%.
Right.
It's the same way, and Tom and I had the same kind of conversation too.
Yeah.
So
I think all this hotel room time we spend together, that brain is slowly.
We said we would never speak of the murder room again.
Look, the murder room is the most talked about thing on this show. It has come up more frequently than Devil Dinosaur, Teleporter, and ID cards combined.
We gotta get out of this place.
You're wondering what we're laughing about there. The song Tom was just singing was actually lyrics in the song that were playing when we first arrived at the hotel and we were checking in.
Yeah, we're checking in the hotel and that song starts playing. If we were in a movie, we should have clued in to the fact that was when we should have got back in the truck.
It's like Jason Voorhees was behind us in the hockey mask. It was kind of funny.
God.
Well, Mike and I just look at each other like, oh my god.
What are we getting ourselves into?
These guys left me with the responsibility of finding a cheap hotel. I found a cheap hotel.
You succeeded admirably.
It was a cheap
They
hotel.
didn't say they wanted quality. They said cheap. And I like cheap near the convention center doesn't exist. At the time, Airbnb was very questionable.
I seem to recall you were the one pushing for cheap, but
Before,
I was super cheap because I was poor.
before our room was a hotel room, it was an ashtray. Apparently.
And a sponge.
And a couple other things, maybe a brothel for a day or something. I'm not sure.
Some crime reenactments.
No, crime enactments.
Oh, sorry.
Reenactments, you're doing it over again. It hadn't happened in the first place.
If you turn on the TV there, you can see the snuff film that was filmed in the room, right? That's how it worked?
Pretty much.
Basically, yeah. Michael, any thoughts on the teleporter discussion, or should we move on after the murder room? We lost the plot.
Yeah, we did. The only thing I would say is I agree with the numbers with him, except for the days that I'm only rolling low, and then I specifically put my inspirations I actually want to see on like 1, 2, and 3, because I know, well, I'm not making shape change or anything, so I'm probably gonna actually roll the inspiration I want. Like that rock, I rolled shape change 15 times throughout, didn't make a single one. Like, that's just how my dice go.
I wonder if there's somebody on the show who can relate to that. Somebody who might have a legend that crosses country borders. Somebody who's been yelled at by two of the nicest guys in the Heroclix community for bad dice rolls.
Someone who invited me on the show tonight.
Maybe. All right. Next up, William Dickey. He wants to know, would a better limited format be commons, uncommons, and rares only? I like the idea. You're pushing towards the same kind of direction I'm going with the commons only thing. When I go for the commons only, I'm looking for the extreme welcoming format. Uncommons and rares, they're cool. I like them. They're really neat, and they need some attention too. Oftentimes, though, there's always uncommons out there that kind of stand out, and rares that would really stand out in the format.
Shredder clone.
Yeah, the Shredder clone exists in that format, and would be dominant in that format because that's also the same format that an Overdrive would exist in, along with Batroc the Leaper. See where we're going with this. This all just kind of came together, right, guys? Add into that commons everybody's got. In addition to which, your friend that you just taught how to play Heroclix has all your commons. That's why I think the common format is more welcoming. It gets way more players in there, and I feel like in a lot of cases there's a lot less damaging mental game, because here's another thing is, if everybody's playing cables, that's because everybody has cables, because they're common AF, as the teenagers would say, right? It's a common figure. I think almost anybody who played a sealed dud pool in the X-Force event that didn't pull a cable, anybody? No? There you see. So we all have a cable. I have multiples. Ask me for them, right? And that is the thing. It's like, when I say I push for the all common format, it's the fact that if a player sees a figure that they lose to and they want to build a team based on what they just saw, they're not breaking the bank. In fact, some guys like, here, have the one I just beat you with. I got another one in my bag. Is sometimes the case, right? And that's why I kind of push towards that. Uncommon, common, uncommon, rare for competitive format to replace the limited format, though, because limited is more competitive in that aisle, could make a lot of sense. And it lets me be the one who's still running the common league. It's mine only. And then it keeps me out of competition with the ROC, that's for sure, because it's competition I can't even come close to. I might even have to ask them for prizes sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on the matter. Tom, what would you say?
I like the idea of it. I mean, I don't know if I like it any better than some other variations of limiting things. As I see it, the limited format, the spirit of it is trying to play stuff that you don't see as much in competitive, and trying to keep things more focused on what's happening on the map as opposed to elements externally. I think that's the spirit of limited. And so I don't think a CUR tournament necessarily hits all those boxes, as well as, like, you know, the more or less of some variation on what it is, which is, you know, eliminating things. You could potentially curtail the sideline. You could impose a Highlander rule. I would love a Highlander rule. But anyway, it's not a bad idea. I just think there are lots of good ideas.
There's a lot, that's the thing. Limiting people is very easy to do. Mike?
Well, I agree with Tom for sure on the Highlander rule thing because I pretty much build that way all the time. I can't think of a moment I've ever deviated from that, to be honest. Other than me telling someone to play 2 cables in a sealed event, but I didn't play it.
Wow, sealed.
It was 2 cables in the storm that makes smoke.
Yeah. You build with what you got and seal.
Yeah, but
Build with what you got. 2 cables. That's enough.
But no, I would love that idea. I mean, like I like, just like Tom said, that when the game kind of gets back to the sort of the pure of what's happening on the map, and it's not all this extraneous stuff on the sides, and I've got to remember all these. We're just kind of playing a real streamlined game, and I really enjoy that. So I like the concept of anything that facilitates that. So yeah, I'm into it.
Michael?
Honestly, just from like looking through the sets real quick, I think I would prefer common uncommon. I think when you hit rare, there's just a little too much jank that just kind of immediately popped out to me. Shredder Clone being one of them. Honestly, a lot of the turtle set, half of the good stuff was super rare, and the other half of them were rare when it comes to like the turtle themselves. So you have some really good space turtles. Mephisto, Clarion. It just seems when you hit rare, there's a little too much power spike added into it. But with common, uncommon, they don't let them necessarily. I mean, obviously, cable and other things set aside, they don't let it get out of hand. Whereas with rare, they're like, you're approaching the power level of these supers, but we're not going to quite classify you as that. Where I could see people running nothing but rares and random 1 common support piece. And that kind of then just takes away from the whole point. But common, uncommon, I think that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also note, when we say cable a lot in the common form, he's just really strong. He's not like broken. He's not picking powers. He's just really, really, really potent. There's also a lot of common characters with stealth that he'll be forced to have to base in a lot of cases. So
see, that's the thing. If that cable became so relevant, then how much do you want to bet everyone would just turn around and run the common Batman from Joker's Wild as the counter to it?
Yeah.
The Outsiders, Batman Ally, 120.
A lot of options. Jay?
It's an idea. Yeah, by the time you hit rares, it gets to the point where it is kind of hard to get stuff sometimes. Like what? Nightcrawler was a rare, and look what he would have hit at the time. So you can't really, outside of generics, like commons, uncommons aren't going to be impossibly expensive to get. But once you hit rare, you're past that threshold where you're guaranteed you can get it, sort of thing,
Yeah. Commons, you're guaranteed at least 2 per pack. Uncommons, you get 1 or 2 per pack, depending on, because commons go between 2 and 3 per pack. It fluctuates. Uncommons are between 2 and 1. Rares are only ever 1. Super rares are only ever 1 every certain number of packs. So the distribution of commons, people accumulate a lot of them. Distribution of uncommons, people accumulate a little bit more. Rares and super rares are a little bit more scarce, which is why when again, it's that whole thing. It's scarcity versus.
It's right in the label.
Exactly.
It's rare.
Yeah. Sometimes people need that to be explained to them. You never.
So what you're saying is, you often get the common, and they're like.
Slightly less often get the uncommon.
And the uncommons are strangely, uncommonly.
Pouring
If
salt
you don't
over
mind, Mike, you might be giving some of our viewers a little bit too much credit.
But
I like our comment sections, man.
Wow. In all seriousness, though, bouncing off of what Jay just said, if you buy a case, you honestly don't get a full curse set anymore. If you buy a case, you get a full common uncommon set.
Curse
All right, it's time to be done with you guys. I hate you all now. I hate these guys, but you know who I do love? I do love HCRealms.com, one of our sponsors for a while now. HC Realms is where we get everything. It's a unit section, it's a conversation, and it's also a shop. Jump in that shop, get some cool neato swag, put in the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off your purchase. A little bit gets kicked back to the channel as well. We're also brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. Check out the Apex Insiders premium portion of the site. $3 a month gets you access to great brain dumps from great brains of the game of Heroclix. Occasionally mine too, so you don't get what you pay for. But PJ, who's regularly on the show, is a regular contributor. Paris Gordon, Easton Brock. You know these names. They're great names. They're great people in the community and great players of the games. And, you want the great minds to be contributing to your brain dumps, as it were. So on that, check it out. MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders in the description down below. Also, PJ's event is down below. I'm not sure about all the details. If I remember correctly, it is a ROC Age event. So have fun at that one. Check the details down below. Check out the ROC Online tournaments. They're an awesome source. If you cannot get out to the ROC events, they are running this through Roll20. A very cool thing to check out as well. On that note, I want to thank the beautiful voice, Mr. Tom Kerr.
Thank you.
He's kind of beautiful, Mike White.
Oh.
So under rare circumstances.
All right, hold on. I got a fix for this. There we go. Michael, I want to thank you very much for filling in for PJ this week.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to join you guys.
Jay, thank you for being somewhat more controlled than everybody else.
Apparently, I'm more reined in than certain Mike.
There you go.
And I want to thank everybody who's watching live and everybody watching in the archives. Guys, limited formats out there. Get some teams together. Get some buddies in. Grab some beers. Get some practice, because practice will make your team better. Have a good night, everybody.